An ordinary man finds himself in a new world where he becomes the husband of the great demon queen, giving him the title of Demon King. Before then, Shang-Yi sits in his room, and he begins to think of how he has spent the whole summer in his house alone as his parents are working abroad. And he also does not have any friends around him. He goes to lay on his bed as he tells himself that he would continue playing his game the following day, but as he lays on the bed, he suddenly begins to doze off. Shang then wakes up and notices that the ceiling he is looking at is not that of his room, and he begins to tell himself out loud that he is no more in his house. He opens his eyes and he finds out that he is in another universe, as he is able to know because of their mode of dressing. Then a lady comes to meet him as he begins to slap himself to check if he is hallucinating from the games he had played, but the lady tells him that he is not hallucinating as everything he is seeing is real. The lady goes to meet a priest and she asks him if he is sure that Shang is the same man the prophecy was talking about, and the man tells her that he is the same man as he possesses the magic ring. Shang asks them about the ring they are talking about, and they tell him that the ring on his necklace matches the one on the lady, who he eventually realizes that is the queen of the place. The priest tells him that he is the chosen one that would save their world, but Shang continues to ask them if they are sure that the ring on his necklace is the magic ring. The demon queen Isabella drags Shang, and she asks him why she did not feel any magic on him when he arrived, and he tells her that he bought the ring from a street store. As the demon queen hears this, she gets angry and she walks towards the priests, and she asks him if the summoning spell she used is not working, as she does not think Shang is the right person. The priest tells her that the summoning spell was executed rightly, and Shang is the one that would save their tribe from extinction. Then Shang asks them who they are, and the demon queen tells him that her name is Isabella, and she explains the story of how Lillian, the head of another tribe, collided with some humans and attacked her, which made her lose most of her powers. Some ladies present also add that their tribe is in trouble, and they do not know that the summoning spell would bring a useless human like Shang to save them. Shang begins to think that their situation is like some of what has happened in the games he has played. Suddenly, Isabella groans, and she tells them that she could feel the way her aura is disappearing. Then, she suddenly notices that her body is changing into a human form, and this makes everyone present shocked. The priest tells the queen that her body changed because her aura has been depleted. Then the queen becomes surprised, and she asks the priest how she is going to face her people, but the ladies present tells her that they would be with her. Then they also tell her that they would deal with Shang, but Shang tells them that he is the vice, as he does not want to be in their world. A guard suddenly comes to the palace and announces that the human tribe is about to penetrate into their defenses. Then the priest immediately uses a spell on the queen and the ladies with Shang so as to teleport them away from the palace before the human tribe comes to attack them. The demon queen immediately asks the priest why he is using the spell, and he tells her that he has to save her because she has no power to fight with the Earth tribe. The priest suddenly makes all of them disappear, and the reagent from the Earth tribe Angus comes in, and when he asks the priest where the queen is, the priest ignores his question. Isabella and Shang, along with other demons, find themselves outside the castle, and they immediately tell themselves that they have to leave the vicinity before they are being sighted by the Earth tribe soldiers. Suddenly, a group of Earth tribe soldiers spot them, and they immediately begins to run after them. Then they shoot an arrow, and it hits a female demon who tells Shang that he should make sure he takes care of the queen. The other demons begins to fight with the Earth tribe soldiers, and as Shang tries to take Isabella away, she disagrees and tells him that she has to avenge her soldiers, but Shang explains to her that she has to escape first so that she would be able to plan on how to avenge her soldiers. Shang and Isabella suddenly sees that the Earth tribe soldiers have surrounded them, but they could not recognize Isabella as the demon queen because she already has a human body. Then Shang whispers to her that she should not do anything, but she does not listen to him, and she immediately rushes towards the soldiers as a result of her anger towards them. Shang holds Isabella down, and he tells the soldiers that they have been slaves of the demon tribe for long, and it is why Isabella is reacting to them like that, as she is already traumatized from the maltreatment they have gotten from the demon tribe. But as Shang continues to try to convince the soldiers, Isabella looks at him with disgust and anger in her eyes. The soldiers tell each other that they do not care if they are humans, because they would get a reward if they can take their skills back to their leader. Shang pulls Isabella to kneel before the soldiers to plead for their mercy, but she whispers to him that he is letting a queen kneel, which is against the traditions of her land, and he tells her that they have to do that so that they would be able to go escape from the soldiers. The soldier insists on killing the two of them, and they decide to share the rewards according to whoever kills Shang and Isabella first. But as they try to attack them, the head of the White Dragon squad comes towards them on a horse, and he asks them what they are doing in the demon tribe, as the king had sent the White Dragon squad, and not the Red Dragon Squad, and on hearing this, the words of the leader scares the soldiers off. The head of the White Dragon Squad gets down from his horse, and he introduces himself as Sophus. Then Xiang thanks him for saving them from the Earth Tribe soldiers. Then Sophus asks them when they have been captured by the Demon Tribe soldiers, but Xiang tries to ignore the question. Sophus immediately points his sword at Xiang, and he gets scared, then lies to Sophus that they have captured him since when he was little. Then he also adds that Isabella is his wife, but Xiang tells himself that Sophus might not believe the lie he has told him. Sophus believes what he has told him. Then he asks him why he does not have his clothes on, but as Xiang tries to look for the perfect lie to reply him, Sophus immediately gives him a new cloth and tells him that he understands that the demon tribe must have taken his clothes away when they captured him. Xiang begins to wonder why he is having a feeling of a good aura around Sophus, and he immediately tells them that he would take them home, but Isabella asks him where he is trying to take her to, as she is the ruler of the demon tribe, and she also adds that she would not leave her land for anywhere, but Xiang immediately shuts her up as he whispers to her that she should not try to reveal her identity, as they would be in trouble if she does. Luckily, Sophus did not hear what Isabella had asked him, because he got distracted by a guard who came to give him a piece of information about what is going on in the demon tribe. Isabella gets angry at Xiang, and she tells him that he is trying to belittle her. Then she also threatens to take his life, when next he tries to belittle her in front of humans. Xiang tells her not to do anything to disclose her identity, as they would both be killed if they get to know that she is the Demon Queen. Xiang immediately begins to hail the White Dragon Knights as Isabella watches him with disgust. On the way to the Earth Tribe, Xiang clings onto Isabella and begins to look around as he wonders how the place is well built to resist any kind of danger. Then he also notices that their dress mode is different from that of the demon tribe, and he begins to compare the dress code to that of his real world. But Isabella asks Xiang why he is holding her so tight. Then he tells her that it is his first time of riding a horse, and as a result of that he is getting scared while riding it. Sophus suddenly calls Xiang and Isabella, but Xiang had given him another name for Isabella, so as to hide her true identity. Sophus asks Xiang why their names sound weird, and he tells him that it was the name they had given them in the demon tribe, because they cannot remember their original names due to the trauma they have gotten from their experience within the demon tribe. As they are walking in the city, Xiang notices that the traders and everyone bows as they are the knights. Them, he concludes that it is a form of respect, but as they keep on going, a man stands in the way of the knights, and when a guard tries to tell Sophus about the man, he immediately tells the guard off by telling him that he has seen the man. Isabella tells Xiang that the man must be from royalty as they look at his mode of dressing. Then Xiang tells her that the man does not look like royalty, and immediately one of the guards tells them to mind what they are saying, as the man is the reagent's son and the reagent is the highest authority in the city. But Isabella tells them that if she still had her powers, the reagent and his son would be of no match to her. The guard then tells Xiang that he should caution Isabella so that they do not get in trouble for her mental illness, and Xiang tells the guard that he would smack her anytime she says anything of such again. The reagent's son, named Biri, tells Sophus that he had thought it was his father that was back from the demon tribe, that he had even planned a good welcome team for him. Then Sophus becomes confused, as he wondered that the reagent had sent them to sign a treaty with the demon tribe, but instead he had gone there himself. Buri tells Sophus that the reagent had gone to go and defeat the Demon Queen and her people, and this information makes Sophus curious, as he does not know why the reagent had decided to go ahead with such plan without informing them. Then a man comes into the discussion between Buri and Sophus, as he asks Buri if the murder of the Demon Queen was the king's intention or that of the reagent. On looking at the person talking, they realize that it is Sophus' father Dita, who is the imperial leader in the city. Then Buri asks him why he is with them instead of staying with the king to help him study, and he tells them that he had heard a triumphant call and he thought it was the reagent that was back. Buri asks Dita if he wanted to come and question the reagent, but he replies him that he dares not. But as Xiang and Isabella watches this, Xiang asks the guard about the man that joined the conversation, and the guard tells them that the man is the father to Sophus, and he is a firm man who is different from the reagent, as they are two different people who have different opinions on political issues. Suddenly, some of the soldiers blast their horns to announce the arrival of the reagent, and when the gates open, Isabella sees that they have the head of one of her soldiers, and as she gets furious, Xiang holds her and tells her to be calm so that she would not blow her cover. Isabella calms down and tells herself that she would make Angus the reagent pay for what he has done to her people. Angus goes to meet Dita, and he asks him if he had come to welcome him, and Dita tells him that he has done well. Dita tells Angus that he should go and see the king, but Angus tells him that he should follow him, as he wants to go and report to the king about what had happened in the demon tribe. Biri runs to his father, but his father Angus sends him away from him. Xiang tells Isabella that Angus is a powerful warlord, but she tells him not to spew nonsense from his mouth. She begins to tell Xiang how dangerous Angus is, but they are interrupted by a guard who tells them that he has been instructed to take them to Sophus's residence. On getting to the residence, Xiang becomes excited as the mansion is a big one, and when they enter the mansion, they are welcomed by the butlers who tells them that the owners of the mansion has told them to take care of them. But Isabella tells Xiang that they should be careful as she feels they are being too nice to them. But Xiang tells her that if they were to kill them, they would have done so since, and she agrees with him. Meanwhile, in the palace, the young king thanks Angus for carrying out the task of making a truce with the demon queen, and Angus tells the king that he would follow his order and wishes, but Dita tells the king that Angus had gone to the demon tribe to kill the people, and as a result of that the demon queen has gone missing, as he was supposed to make truce with them according to the king's order. Dita also tells the king that Angus had gone to taint the name of the king, because the demon queen's is missing, and when she comes back, there would be war between their tribe and the demon tribe. But the young king tells Dita that there would have been a reason for what Angus had done, but Angus immediately tells the king that he has the report of what has happened, and that Lillian, who was the assistant of the demon queen, had signed a treaty for the demon tribe, and they have accepted her as their new ruler, because the demon queen Isabella has been declared missing. Dita immediately the king that he suspects that something is wrong as Lillian has betrayed her people, but as the king checks the treaty that has been signed, and he tells Dita that he does not need to say anything about it again, as he would allow the reagent to carry out his plans however he wishes. In the huge mansion, Isabella begins to wonder if she would spend the rest of her life as one of the human tribe, that she begins to think of how she would get to her people, but Xiang, who is in the bathing section in the mansion, begins to tell himself how he enjoys the life, but he suddenly remembers that he has a life in the real world, and he has to look for a way to leave the world that he is currently at so that he would be able to go back to his real life. He looks at the ring and tells himself that the ring should be able to take him back to his world, as the world he is in is very scary to him. Suddenly, Sophus comes to meet Xiang in the bath, and as he calls Xiang, Xiang asks him if he is back from the palace. Sophus asks Xiang if he can take a bath together with him, and Xiang begins to think otherwise as he starts feeling weird because of the idea of taking a bath with his fellow man. Then after getting into the bath, Sophus tells Xiang that he would send some soldiers to go and look for their families, as they have only given little information about themselves, and he wishes to help them to look for their families. Xiang feels like Sophus is trying to look for faults in his excuses, as he tells him that he cannot remember anything from his past. Then Sophus tells him that he had a brother who was also kidnapped, and with this, Xiang figured that he has been nice to them because he thinks he would be able to get some information about his missing brother. Xiang tries to make Sophus feel good, but Sophus tells him that he had thought he would be able to reunite with his brother, as a peace treaty was already signed by the demon tribe. Then he asks Xiang if he had met his brother among the slaves and the demon tribe slaves, and Xiang immediately tells him that there were too many slaves, and as a result of that, he was not able to know them very well. Xiang also realizes that the traitor is Lillian, who has become the new ruler of the demon tribe, and he also tells himself that he has to tell Isabella about it. Sophus also tells Xiang that the reagent is the only person that is an intermediary between their tribe and the demon tribe, and it would be difficult for him to help him to tell the demon tribe that they should release their human captives. Then Xiang immediately understands and tells him that it is so, because Sophus' father Dita and the reagent Angus disagrees on many things, and that would make it hard to ask him for a favor. Sophus continues as he tells Xiang how often his father and Angus get clashes, and he also adds that Angus would not want to help him as he is trying to be friends with the enemies. Then Xiang tries to make him feel better as he tells him that he is a kind man and he would surely get his brother back. Sophus thanks Xiang for his kind words, then he places his hand on Xiang's shoulder as he thanks him, and Xiang begins to feel uncomfortable. Then he also tells him not to address him as formal as he used to, and he tells him that he can start calling him by his name. Later that night, a maid named Elena takes Xiang to his room, and as she leaves, he begins to tell himself that he would love for her to be his girlfriend. But as he enters the room to take his shower, he suddenly sees Isabella in the shower, and he immediately yells at her as he asks her what she is doing in his room. Isabella shuts Xiang up, and she tells him not to mention her real name as they are being watched by Elena. Then Xiang tells her that it is not possible as he just had a nice and smooth conversation with Sophus, but she tells him that it does not matter as they still regard them as slaves from the demon tribe. Xiang asks Isabella why Elena put them in the same room, and she tells him that it is his fault as he has been telling them that they are both married, and he also asks her if they are kept in the same room to see if they are actually married, but Isabella immediately tells him to keep quiet because someone is in front of their door. Meanwhile, Alina moves towards the door of the couple, and she places her ear on the door to listen to their conversation. Alina suddenly leaves the door smiling to herself, and Isabella tells Xiang that he should stop acting, but he does not listen to her, and she threatens to make him perish if he does not stop teasing her. She also tells him that he should sleep on the floor, as she would injure him if he tries to do anything funny to her. As Xiang lays down to sleep, he asks Isabella if she can send him back to his world, since she was the one that summoned him, but she tells him that she does not know how to send him back, and the priest cannot also do any spell to send him back. Xiang immediately tells himself that the ring should be able to send him back, and he immediately asks Isabella that she should hand him her ring, and when she gives it to him, he tells her that the ring should be able to take him back. Then he begins to rub the two rings together, as he tells it to take him back to his world. But after a few minutes of rubbing the rings together, Xiang gets tired, and he begins to yell as he asks Isabella why the rings are not working. Isabella tells Xiang that the priest read some old transcribed words when he wanted to summon him. Then Xiang immediately realizes that if he wants to go back to his world, he has to go to the demon plains to get the scrolls, but as he is about to return the ring to Isabella, he notices that she is already asleep, and he tells himself that she is cute. Alina goes to meet Sophus, and he asks her if she went to spy on them, and she tells him that she had to spy on them because they are from the demon tribe, and he immediately pulls her closer to himself, and he tells her that she should not spy on them without his permission, as he feels there is a connection between himself and Xiang. He also adds that he might be his brother Sophus. That Alina touches his face, and she tells him that she has not seen him smile in a long time. Sophus then tells Alina that she should not go as he wants her to spend the night with him. The following morning, Xiang wakes up and begins to look for Isabella, but he hears a knock on the door, and he sees Alina with some clothes, and she tells him that the clothes were chosen by Sophus, and he asks her if she has seen Isabella, and she tells him that she must have gone to the garden. Xiang wears the clothes and he follows Alina to the garden. Then he begins to admire the way Sophus is shooting his arrows. Xiang tells Sophus that he is amazed by the way he is shooting the arrows. Then Sophus asks Xiang if he wants to try, but he refuses as he tells him that he is not talented. Sophus then tells him that he sees that Isabella is good with the arrows, and Xiang begins to tell himself that her skills has not disappeared. Then a few minutes later, Alina comes to announce to them that their breakfast is ready, and while at the table, Sophus tells them that they can live with them, but Xiang tells him that they cannot keep bothering them. But Sophus disagrees, and he tells them that he has assigned Alina to them and she would teach them how to live in the kingdom. Isabella tells them that they wish to live on their own, but Sophus continues to insist as he tells them that they can even get jobs to do. But on hearing this, Isabella gets angry, and she immediately yells that she cannot be working in a kitchen. Then Xiang tries to tell her to calm down, but she does not listen to him. Sophus asks Isabella why she is yelling, and she tells him that she has heard of the way the kingdom usually treats its people. Isabella begins to narrate the story of how the humans gained their powers and spells from a dragon, and how they have also used the army as a point in getting stronger as a person. She then tells Sophus that she wants to attend the honored school. Then Xiang immediately gets her idea that she wants to join the school so that she would be able to fight for her people. Sophus asks Isabella if that is what she truly wants, and she tells him that she wants revenge. But Xiang immediately cuts in and tells him that they want revenge as they have been oppressed for a long time. Then Sophus tells them that he would not let them enroll in the school if their goal is to revenge. But Xiang also tells him that they would be able to help him if they become stronger in the school. Xiang continues to try to convince Sophus, and Isabella thinks he is just spewing rubbish, but eventually Sophus thinks Xiang cares about him, and he becomes excited. Then Isabella tells him that he is their only hope to get into the school, but he tells them that they have good potentials of being accepted into the school. Then Xiang begins to get scared as he tells himself that he does not know how to cook. Sophus begins to explain to them how the academy would test them and accept them, but Xiang tells him that he does not have any special skills, and Sophus assures him that he would be okay. Sophus assigns a guard to them and tells the guard to take them to the academy to prepare for their screening. The guard then takes them to the academy, and Xiang tells himself that the screening would be his first test in their world. On getting to the school, they see a teacher named Mike, and how he is teaching his students by holding a bird in his hand and striking a huge statue down without harming the bird. The guard then takes Xiang and Isabella to the teacher, and he tells him that they are the insert students that needs to take the entrance test. But Mike moves towards the two, and the rest of the students begins to admire Isabella, and Mike uses his ability to unleash his fear powers to make them scared, but Isabella does not get shaken, and she immediately tells him that she does not want to learn any combat skills as she wants to learn how to use magic and swords. Mike tells the two that they should follow him, but Xiang tells himself that he does not believe that he could stand as he got scared of the man, but he did not react as if he was shaken. The guard taps Xiang, and he immediately falls unconscious. Then a few minutes later, he wakes up and notices that the arena is empty, and he immediately asks them what had happened. Then one of the students tells him that he passed out due to the fear from the teacher, and he also adds that he has failed the entrance test, but he can help him to practice later. Sean discusses with the student and makes friends with the student, who later introduces himself as Air. As Air leaves, Isabella tells him that he is weak as he is persuading people to be his friends. Then they begin to argue, and the guard tells them that they should go to another class since they have disagreed to learn combat skills. Meanwhile, at the open airfield, two teachers are fighting on the training ground and their students are all cheering them up. One of the teachers is Dorona, who is a swordsmanship teacher, and the other is Az, the magic skill teacher, and the two teachers yell at each other for trying to take the training ground for themselves, and suddenly they begin to fight each other with their skills. The teachers continue to fight, and as they are about to hit an old man who was cleaning the field, Xiang immediately jumps in and rescues the man. But on seeing this, Dorona stops and she immediately attacks Xiang as she asks him who he is, and the guard immediately comes to tell her that they are from Sophus, as they are insert students who want to choose the branch they would be learning. Az asks the guard if they have informed the principal of the school, and the guard tells them that Sophus has taken care of it. Dorona tells them that she would like to test their powers, and Xiang becomes shocked as she mentioned powers, but Isabella begins to walk towards Dorona to start the test, and Dorona asks Az what she is waiting for, and Az immediately gives Isabella a magic ball. The guard explains to Xiang that the magic ball is to determine the amount of boundary power a person has, and suddenly they see that the ball begins to glow brightly in Isabella's hands, which means that her boundary power is much and she would be admitted to the class. Az immediately goes to meet Isabella and asks her if she has studied magic in the past, and she tells her that she did not know why her boundary force has disappeared. Then Az tells Isabella that she would take her into her class. The students of the magic skill class becomes excited as they tell themselves that a new beautiful girl would be in their class. Then Dorona congratulates Az for having an extraordinary student. After the test, Isabella goes to take the sword, and they try to tell her that she has already been accepted into one class. Then she tells them that she just wants to try her ability, as she wishes to learn both skills. Then Dorona agrees that she would test Isabella. Dorona asks her students if there is anyone who would like to guide the new student, and immediately, Viri, the son of the reagent, tells his teacher that he would fight with her, and as he comes out, Dorona tells them that the fight is just a test, and Viri tells her that he would go easy on Isabella. Xiang immediately goes to whisper to Isabella that she should be careful because Buri is a pervert. Then the fight starts, but as Buri launches a lot of attacks at Isabella, she dodges everything, and the students begins to hail Buri as they think he is strong when he fights, and also because he is the best in the class. After dodging all the attacks from Buri, Isabella decides to attack him, and she begins to rush towards him as she uses her own sword to hit his sword. As Isabella uses a special technique on Buri, he sees that he could not take the attack for a long period of time, and he immediately uses his boundary force to hit her, which is against the rules. But as Isabella begins to fall, a student named Lei immediately saves her with his own powers. Xiang immediately goes to meet Lei as he carries Isabella, and he thanks him for saving his wife, and as all the student hears this, they become surprised that Isabella is married to him. Dorona then asks Buri why he uses his powers even when she had warned them not to, and he tells her that he used his powers out of self-defense. Aisid then tells Buri that he would never be as strong as Lei. Then she introduces him to Xiang and Isabella as her apprentice, and she also adds that it seems like Lei has found a suitable match for him, and he immediately bows to her and tells her that he would practice more so that he would become stronger. Lei goes to meet Isabella, and he bows to her as he tells her that she should show him the way. Dorona asks Isabella if she had learned her techniques from the popular Mocha, and she tells her that she learned from him, and as the students hears this, they begin to discuss about how powerful Isabella is. Isabella also commends Dorona for using a skill she had seen her use, and Dorona immediately tells her that she has accepted her into her class as well. Then all the students begins to rejoice as they have a new student in their class. The two teachers begins to argue over the class Isabella would pick, but as they try to settle it with a duel, Xiang immediately goes to meet them, and he tells them that he has not been tested. Az gives Xiang the magic ball, and after a few minutes, the ball does not emit any light, and she insults Xiang that he is useless, and she has known from the moment he came, but she just had to do the test for him to fulfill his failure. Xiang becomes sad, and Dorona tells him that he can learn swordsmanship, but he would not be able to defeat people who have utilized their boundary power. As the teachers and the students leave the field, Buri goes to meet Xiang and insults him for being useless and empty-headed. Then he also tells him to leave their school as he does not fit in. Isabella yells at Buri for insulting Xiang, and Xiang immediately tells them that his wife would protect him even if he is useless. Then Xiang tells Isabella that he would go and look for other branches to study at, but she tells him to wait, as he would be okay if he studied hard. The two teachers begins to argue again on who would take Isabella, and Xiang walks away with the guard as he asks more about the boundaried power and force, and the guard tells him that he has to choose non-combat skills, since they already know that he is not good with the other skills. Soon they reach the forgery skills section, and when they get there, they see the students drawing diagrams of a sword. And when Xiang looks at some of the drawings and he sees that they are bad, the students send him away as he is disturbing them, and he apologizes to them, and he asks the guard why the students are drawing instead of hitting metals, and immediately someone replies him and tells him that he has no knowledge, and as he turns to look, he sees the forgery teacher, Martin. The students greet their master, and he tells them to continue drawing them. The guard greets him and tells him of how Xiang has been captured by the demon tribe, which makes him to have no knowledge about the world. Martin tells him that he would show him how it works. Then he moves to where the word is placed, and he brings out a pen from his pocket. He makes the pen bigger and uses it to draw the image of a sword, and when the drawing is done, he tells the drawing to awaken, and immediately the drawing becomes a real sword. Xiang becomes shocked at what Martin just did. Then he immediately asks him if he used any sort of powers, and Martin tells him that he does not require any power or boundary force to forge. Martin also explains that the pen is made from some special kind of crystals, which come in grades, and the crystal is responsible for the forgery. The students gets angry as Xiang continues to talk about the boundaried power, and the guard immediately tells Xiang that he should not talk about the boundary force there, as the students are people like him who do not possess the power. Xiang immediately falls at the feet of the teacher, and he begs Martin that he wants to become one of his students. Xiang is given his test at the forgery skill, and he passes beyond their expectations as he could draw in his real life, and all the students begin to admire his talent. He also tells Martin that drawing is his only skill, and Martin tells him not to worry, as he would be able to make a headway in the class. Xiang begins to tell himself that he did not know that his skills could be useful for him, but while begging the teacher, a student comes to tell him the 3 rules guarding the forgery class, and as he hears the rules, he tells himself that the rules are soul to follow. Xiang continues to beg Martin, and the guard also tries to talk to the teacher, as he tells him that Xiang is friends with Sophus, who is the head of the White Dragon Army. Then the teacher tells him that he would not miss the opportunity of having a talented student in his class. Martin then hands a aura crystal pen to Xiang, as it is an entry pen for all students, and he tells him to take good care of the pen, but Xiang takes the pen and begins to watch it with amazement, and he tells himself that the pen looks magical. At the royal palace, the king's servant begins to await the king's next move on the issue, and they suddenly see that Guro comes in, and he tells the king that he heard that the regiment wants to order an execution for the Minister of Agriculture, and he asks the king's servant why he would come up with such an idea. He begins to explain to Guro on why he came up with such an idea, and he tells him that the East is filled with mindless beasts, and he begins to wonder why they would want to create peace with them. He tries to explain to the king, but the servant tells him that it is already too late, and he orders the guards to bring in the captives. The beasts come in, and Guro notices that it is them. They inform the king that they were caught when they were receiving supplies from their own army. Guro immediately asks them why they would have to hit such lengths, and the servant immediately orders them to open the box, and the king sees that they have beheaded someone and placed it inside the box. The king and everyone becomes very surprised, and the king asks the regent how they would do such a thing. The servant immediately begs the king to allow him to do his dirty work for him, and allow him to punish the regents in Sado, where they would be taken care of, and in a week's time, they will be leading the Black and Gray Dragons team to cause the demise of the Eastern tribe. The regents become surprised, because that was not what he told them that they would do, but he tells them that they should beg for mercy from the king. The Black Dragon immediately tells them that the human tribe is the slyest of all the tribes, and their hearts will be engulfed into darkness. Guro immediately tells Baru that he was not certain that things would get bad, and he advises the king to stop, and it creates unnecessary tension among other tribes. The servant guarding the prisoners secretly releases them and tells the king that the monsters have escaped, and they must be stopped. The monster becomes angry because they have declared war upon his tribe, and he plans to use their king as the price for what they have done. He then goes to attack the king, but Sophus appears and warns him not to be disrespectful in front of the king. He pushes Beru away, and he immediately kills him. The king begins to fear, and Guro tells the servant that it has been his plan all along, and the servant begins to smile at him. Back at the city, Xiang sees that he has finally arrived at his destination, and he sees that it is one of the portals that he sees in his video games. He then asks his soldier where the portal leads to, and the soldier tells him that it transfers students from the academy to their residence, and tells him that the border in particular takes him to the northern residences. He then advises Xiang that if he wishes to continue studying at the school, he will have to stay on the campus. Xiang sees that Sophus is a great guy, but he notices that he gives him a strange kind of stare, and he wouldn't like to go back there. He then tells the guard to head back and thanks Sophus for him, and the soldier tells him that the team leader has arranged everything for him already and hands him a key. Xiang begins to wonder what the key is for, and the guard tells him that the team leader has ordered him to be taken back if he does not want to live there. He then promises to sort out his living arrangements and informs him that there is a residence within the Eastern Hall. Shang sees that Sophus is a really nice guy and promises to look for his brother if he ends up at the demon tribe. Back at the palace, Sophus begins to ask his father if the king will listen to them, and his father tells him that the Minister of Agriculture and the Great Dragon team are his best men. He then promises to stop him if he plans to take them away from him. They arrive at the entrance and Sophus informs the guard to tell the king that his father would like to see him. The guards then inform Sophus that the key wants only Master Guru to come into the room, and Sophus asks them if they are sure that is what the Majesty wanted, and his father tells him to wait outside. Guru goes in and sees that the king is not in the room, and he sees the king's servant, and he asks Guru if what he saw did not scare him. Sophus begins to wait outside the building, and he notices a presence behind him and sees that it is Sado. Sophus begins to wonder why he is there, but Sado tells him that he has always gone to battle with the White Dragon team and asks him if he is aware that the White Dragon team is controlled by the king. Sophus then tells him that they were created by the king, and he begins to wonder why he is bothered by who controls it. He suddenly senses that something might be wrong with his father, and he tries to save him, but Sado tells him that he will be risking his life if he thinks of entering. Sophus then asks him if they are planning on hurting his father, but Sado immediately begins to laugh and tells him that everyone he does is controlled by him, and he cannot do anything about it. Sophus immediately brings out his sword and asks what they plan to do to his father. Sado then smiles and informs him that he does not even have any control over anyone. Sado immediately tells him that he has potential to be a hero and begins to wonder if he is okay with being a chummy leader. Sophus immediately tells him that he will hack him to death since he had the courage to attack his father. Sado immediately tells him to calm down as the regent only wants to show his father the true state the capital is in, and Sophus begins to wonder what he is talking about. Sado then advises him to leave, and he promises that his father will be safe and promises him that he has nothing to worry about. Sado pauses for a while and tells him that he would want to see him try to hack him to death. Sophus then pauses and begins to watch him leave. At the Western Campus residence, Xiang sees that it looks beautiful, and he begins to remember his old campus school days. Xiang opens the door and sees a lady in his room, and he immediately asks her what she is doing in his room. He immediately covers his eyes and begins to wonder why she does not hit him yet, and she tells him that she doesn't understand the humans as they have everything prepared for them. Xiang then tells her to follow him and make a run for it, but she tells him that the academy keeps track of their students and they will know if anyone is missing. He asks her about her plan, but she tells him that her powers have completely reduced and she has to rest till she gets her powers back. She then tells him about their demon pack, and Xiang sees that they are pretty mean. He immediately promises to help her out and make her a leader again, and she becomes surprised. He tells her about his forgery skills, and he asks her if she has any swordsmanship skills, and she tells him that she wanted to build her strength, so she learned 2 skills at the same time. Xiang then tells her that she is a magical swordsman, and she begins to wonder what kind of name it is, and she sees that it sounds interesting. She then asks him why he is on the bed, and he tells her that he is just acting since they are married, and he notices that she suddenly becomes silent, and she tells him that it is all his fault for calling her his wife. He sees that she is aggressive, but she is cute when she is shy. He then tells her that he is only saying it so that he can ward off the guys, as she can easily call attention. She immediately thanks him, and he notices that she is pointing a sword at him and asks her if she plans on committing murder. She immediately tells him to get off the bed, and Xiang agrees and goes to sleep on the floor and begins to think about what other things his pen can forge. The following morning, the lady wakes up and sees that there is someone sitting on her bed, and she immediately asks what the person is doing in her dorm. She immediately notices that it is a stone statue of her, and she begins to wonder where it comes from. She begins to think it might be Chang's doing, and she begins to move around and wonder what kind of shapes he is drawing. She goes out and continues to see objects that appear strange to her, and she sees a big stone giant, and she begins to wonder who put it there. She then plans to deal with Sean when he returns back. Back at his class, his teacher begins to wonder why he has not arrived and decides to go on with the class. Sean suddenly arrives on a wooden bicycle, and they begin to wonder what he is riding. They begin to wonder if it is a kind of rich kid toy, and Xiang begins to think of how he will explain it to them, and he tells them about his supposed invention, and his teacher tells him that it is the first time he would be seeing a human-powered means of transportation. His classmates begin to ask him if they can have a ride with the bicycle, and he tells them that they can have a go at it. The teacher begins to ride and falls down, but apologizes to them and tells them that he is still trying to get it. His teacher then asks him how he uses it, and Xiang begins to show him and teach him how to ride a bike. His teacher suddenly begins to ride his bicycle, and Xiang immediately says that he is proud of his teacher. His teacher then asks him how to stop, and he remembers that he did not draw a pedal on it, and he immediately crashes the bicycle. The students begin to feel bad that the bicycle is damaged, but Xiang tells them that he can draw a better one, and they become excited. He immediately informs them that he will not be drawing it at the moment as he has expended the whole alloy stone. They become surprised that he has used the entire pen, but he tells them that he was experimenting with it throughout the night, and he sees that he cannot tell them all they were drawing. He sees that he would never be able to construct a phone because he does not know the mechanism that makes a phone to work, and some other home appliances. The students and his teacher begin to ask about all the things he drew, but he tells them not to worry about it as they were all flops. At the forgery class, the teacher replaces his stone and tells them that they are almost out of stones, and he advises them to use it effectively. Xiang sees that he can continue experimenting, and the teacher continues with the class. The teacher then brings out a box and asks the students if they know the reason why they put the stones inside pens instead of using it directly the way they were meant to be used. One of the students tells him that the stones are too powerful and they may harm the user. The teacher begins to tell them a story about a dwarf village, but Xiang begins to feel that something is wrong, and he asks his teacher where the stones come from. The teacher informs him about the mine where all the stones come from, and he also learns that it is the home of the golden dragon. Xiang begins to think if killing the dragon will grant them access to the stones, and the teacher informs the students that each one carries gold coins. Xiang begins to wonder how much is 10 gold coins, and he asks his classmate the quantity of food 1 gold coin can get and how many people it can feed. Xiang learns that 1 gold coin is 50 bags of ration, and it is enough for 50 people to finish in a month. He suddenly becomes shocked because he learns that he has finished it all in one night forging items. The teacher continues his lesson and tells them that the crystalline stones are the lowest tier of gold alloy stones, and he tells them that there is really no need for extra functions for the stones. He immediately continues in his class and continues to show the students the stones, and they suddenly become surprised, and he tells them how expensive they are, and Xiang begins to wonder if his teacher is rich, and the teacher tells them that the stone is not mostly too often. The teacher then begins to tell them about the pale moonstone that is on his pen, and he tells them that they are considered an ultra pen, and Xiang sees that if he owns a pen like that he could control the entire world. The teacher then begins to tell them about his story about forgery, and the student immediately sees that the stone must have been a gift. Xiang continues to listen to the teacher, and he learns that the teacher has suffered a lot for the kingdom, and they show him the picture of his teacher on the wall, and he is suddenly surprised, and the teacher agrees that he is the same person from years ago. Sophus steps outside and sees some horses, and he sees that his father has returned, and he begins to wonder what they have done to his father as he sees that his father is so weak and can barely stand or walk on his own. He then asks his father if they hurt him, but his father tells him to leave as everything is over. His father begins to act strange, and Sophus begins to wonder what they have done to his father. Meanwhile, at the other end, a training session is going on, and she manages to defend herself from multiple sword attacks, and she informs her trainer that she feels she is getting fatigued. She notices that she is injured, and she advises her to remember to practice some more as soon as she leaves the building, as she studies swordsmanship more than the others in her class. She listens to her and promises to practice, and she goes back to her hostel. She enters and sees Dorona and Wadley, and she begins to wonder what they are doing in her room. She goes close to them, and she sees that they are stone statues, and Xiang asks her if they were good. She becomes surprised and asks him how he was able to give color to the statues, and he tells her that he did it by adding dye to the input material, and plans to create more thongs that she has never seen before. She immediately sees a blueprint on the floor, and she picks it up, and Xiang tells her that it is the blueprint from the dwarf tribe. Xiang tells her that it seems the knowledge of the dwarves has been great as they have discovered the steam engine and its application, and he informs her that it is the reason the teacher gave him the blueprint, seeing he is interested in experiments. She immediately kicks him and asks him if he is not afraid of exposing his identity, but he tells her that he cannot be afraid because they do not know what he is forging. She then asks him why he made a statue close to the bed, and he tells her that he wanted to see how it would be if he could make statues come to life. She then asks him why he made the other 2 statues since he has experimented with them already, but he tells her that he wanted to experiment with colors, and she begins to beat him up and not give him room to explain. The next day, Xiang begins to go to class on his bike, and he sees that he has figured out the steam engine, and if he can alter the design, he will be able to make himself a car. Suddenly, he sees a lot of his classmates gathered outside, and he asks them what they are doing, and they inform him that his master has gone into the gold mine. Xiang becomes surprised, and he fills him in on the details of their negotiations with Mr. Martins and how the price of the alloy gold has increased, and that was the reason their master went into the mine. Xiang begins to wonder if his teacher will be able to make it out on his own, and the students agree that they have never seen him fight before. Xiang sees that he will have to get other teachers to help, but his classmates tell him that the kingdom is hosting an annual hunt and they have all gone. Xiang becomes surprised and begins to wonder why it has to be then of all the days. Xiang then plans to go get Sophus, but his classmates tell him that they cannot do so as a large portion of the hunt is organized by the white team. He immediately becomes frustrated, and he immediately begins to wonder what exactly he could do since he is out of options. He begins to think of what to do, and suddenly begins to feel an earthquake, and sees that it is Eli. Eli drops the rock and tells the students that it is the material for the month, and they immediately tell him that their master is not around and ask him if he can be given his money when their master returns. Eli agrees and tells them that he has a lot of faith in their master, and he begins to leave, but Xiang stops him and asks him if he would want to make more money. Xiang immediately tells Moto to take him to the Purple Dragon group as he wants to buy a high-level gold alloy stone, and Moto begins to wonder what he wants to buy stones for. Meanwhile, the guards at the entrance begin to mock the teacher, saying he will be eaten by the dragon, but they suddenly hear a noise and begin to wonder what it is. The guards begin to wonder what kind of monster it is, and they see that it is heading towards them, and they immediately clear the toad to allow it pass without having them killed. They immediately plan to let their leader know. Meanwhile, Xiang's classmates begin to wonder if he can slow it down as he is going too fast, but he ignores them and continues driving. He tells them that it is a card and he has added some improvements by making it electric. Moto immediately sees that he bought purple electric stones to power the car, and Xiang sees that he is a smart one. They begin to tell him to pay attention to where he is going, but he informs them to hold on as he is about to speed things up. At the gold mine, the guards ask the teacher what he is doing in the mine, and he tells them that he is the forgery teacher and he has come to collect stones so that he can teach his students. They try to stop him, but he ignores them and continues going into the mine, and he sees that as long as he follows the dugout route, he should be able to find some stones. He goes deep into the mine and sees that there are a lot of materials in the mine, and he immediately sees that something is behind him. He turns back and sees that it is a ground dragon, and he immediately begins to wonder what he can do. Meanwhile, Xiang and the others arrive at the entrance, and Xiang asks Bai if she is ready to fight the ground dragon, and they agree to go find their teacher, and they suddenly realize that their teacher comes out of the cave with a truckload of stones, and they then asks him if he is okay, but he tells them that he is okay, and Xiang asks if what his teacher is carrying is a gun, but he tells him that it is a steam ejector. They then begin to talk about the rocks, and the master tells them that it needs to be refined, and Eli tells them that he knows someone that can help. They suddenly realize that they have company, and they see that it is the Purple Dragon troops, and Moto sees that there are so many of them. Xiang tells them that they do not look like they are willing to share, and the leader asks them if they are aware that the area is under the protection of the Purple Dragon team. The teacher then informs Yalu that he mined all the stones on his own, and tells them that they created lies to up their prices. Xiang sees that it is just like the real world, and his teacher tells Yalu that he will be taking the issue to the king, and he will no longer be in charge of the stones. Yalu then tells them that he will not be able to mine it on their own, and Xiang tells him that they will head over to the dwarves' village and learn how to. Yalu then tells them that he has no business with them, and he will have to bury them there forever. The soldiers begin to charge at them, and they begin to go on with their plan, and they begin to battle the students and the soldiers, that they are very strong, and begin to doubt if they are students. Moto immediately sees that his master is strong and asks Xiang how he still has the power to draw. Xiang sees that if he gets the drawing right, forgery may be the new strength in their school. Eli immediately uses his powers to push the soldiers away, and Vi also uses her sword to take out the soldiers, and Eli immediately sees that he is stuck in something, and he begins to wonder what it is. He sees that it is being controlled by Yalu, and he begins to dodge the attacks from Yalu, and he sees that the stuff moves on its own. He immediately tries to use his fist of heat, and he immediately sees that it is resistant to fire, and Yalu tells him that it is his animated slime, and he plans to try out another attack on him, but the teacher comes in and blocks the attack. The teacher sees that the liquid was corrosive and asks why he has to go through such lengths. He begins to make fun of them, and Bai uses her sword to cut him and kill him, and he suddenly becomes devoured by his own slime. Martin suddenly begins to wonder if it was totally created by slime, and they suddenly see that there are so many replicas of him and begin to wonder which is the real one. Bai then sees that if he has her magical powers, she would not bother herself with him, and Yalu immediately sees that it is time to take out all of them. Xiang immediately finishes his forging, and they suddenly realize that the ground is opening up, and they begin to wonder if it is an earthquake, and Yalu begins to wonder what is going on. The teacher begins to wonder what is going on, and Eli informs him that Xiang is trapped under the rock. Yalu immediately launches his attack on them, but Xiang activates his steam cannon and launches an attack on Yalu and his soldiers. The slime then falls on some of the soldiers, and they become dead, and Yalu begins to wonder what it is, and they all begin to wonder what Xiang has created. Moto thinks it's a dragon, but the master tells them that it is not a dragon, and Bai begins to wonder what Shang is doing, and Yalu begins to wonder if it is a demon from the demon tribe. Shang immediately brings out the robot and tells them to bow before it is technology combined with magic. The soldiers immediately see that it is a giant, and they begin to wonder how they are going to fight the giant. Shang tells them that they were cocky before, and they all see that it is the voice of Shang. They suddenly become surprised and amazed, and they begin to wonder how he was able to pull it off, and he tells them that he just wanted to put his imagination to the test. He begins to remember how he was able to come up with the device, and how he was able to bring it to life. He then calls it lucky, and he sees that he can build different structures if he combines the various kinds of stones in his gorging process. Yalu then tries to attack him, and tells him that he is full of shit, and throws the slime on the monster, and Shang blocks it and throws it away. Yalu sees that it is too big and tries to attack again with a different type of slime. His teacher tries to warn him that it can destroy steel, but Shang tells him that Lucky One is made out of fire-red crystals. Yalu immediately sees that it is made of fire crystals, and he suddenly begins to be afraid of the giant. Shang then uses the hands of the giant to throw away the soldiers from Yalu, and Yalu sees that he will find people that can defeat it. He tries to escape, but Bai stops him and tells him that his offense is punishable by death, and Shang picks him up and tells him that he is just as guilty as they are. Shang then tells him that he will take him to the king since he almost killed their teacher, and he asks him how much money the Purple Dragon team is offering him and promises to match up the same supply, and asks Bai to collaborate with them. Yalu tells him that he is not aware of the sheer size of the organization he is going against. Meanwhile, two members of the royal family of Tol's Buno and Tol's Bush go, and they receive gratitude from the members of the Purple Dragon team. He immediately orders his men to get an item for him and asks the guests to count the money. The guest sees that it is so little, and he tells them that the money is complete and they would not take any for themselves. The two brothers then decide to increase the money by fivefold, and the leader of the Purple Dragon team immediately sees that they are stronger than him. He immediately gets a message regarding the mine, and he becomes worried as he sends Yalu to deal with them, but the guard tells him that they have taken him down, and they all become surprised. At the west gate, they begin to wonder why there are too many guards, and Shinong sees that their actions have brought unwanted attention. The teacher tells him that he is in search of the leader, but the leader of the purple team comes out and tells him he has a lot of nerves to go against them. He tells Martians that he thought he would understand the concept of current affairs, but he sees that he is just mentally challenged and orders for them to be arrested. Bai comes down from the vehicle and warns the guards not to come any closer or she will not go easy on them. Shang also comes down from the vehicle and tells the prince that he is also involved in the price hike of the stones, and he tells them that he has missed them since it has been long since he came to class. The prince tries to lure Bai to his side, and he calls the rest of them fools. Eli becomes angry at his statement, but Moto tries to stop him so that he will not land in prison. The soldiers then try to arrest them, but Sophus appear and tell them to back off and not lay a hand on them. He informs Dorona that they have arrived, but she tells him that she wants to keep on riding the horses, and he tells her that they will ride the horses after they are done with the soldiers. Sophus immediately tells them that the king has ordered him to detain Martins since he has broken military law. Viri becomes suspicious and notices that he must be there to free him, but he is told to back down by Renz. Renz tells him that it is the king's orders and asks him if he has forgotten that the entire kingdom is being ruled by the king. Viri tries to confront him, but Renz releases a very strong force, and Xiang feels that he is very powerful, and Viri becomes very afraid and immediately apologizes to him, and Renz turns his back on him. Viri becomes angry and promises to remember all Renz has done to him, and his teacher immediately pulls him by the ear, seeing he has not been coming for classes, but he apologizes to his teacher and promises not to do it again. Dorona begins to beat him up, but his friends decide not to help him because Dorona is very scary. Sophus then informs Martins that the king would never detain him, but he is glad that he made it back safely. Shangli tells him that they put him in a very sticky situation, and Sophus warns him not to get into any sticky situation because he does not want to see him die. Shang tells him that he understands, and they inform them that the king is preparing for a large celebration and they need the best students. Bai begins to wonder what kind of celebration it is, and they tell her that they need to take her as the best student in swordsmanship. Sophus immediately tells Shang that they need to go see the king. They arrive at the palace and they begin to tell the king everything about it, and Xiang begins to wonder how a kid is the king, and Sophus and the rest of the group begin to tell the king about all that they have done, and Xiang suggests that all the money should be given to the military, but he begins to wonder if it is embezzled by a corrupt member. The king's royal uncle immediately comes in, and the king begins to wonder what he is doing in the courtyard. He tells the king that he heard that there was a kind of conflict on the western border, and he has come to check what was going on. He then tells the king that he has sorted the embezzlement issue, as he has big hate for thieves. He immediately tells Martin that he is their very valuable asset and his students are very important also, and Xiang becomes surprised. Xiang sees that he is the kind of guy to kill him for making the kind of comment he made earlier. His uncle then tells the king that he has an opinion, and the king gives him the go-ahead to talk, and he tells them that the forgery should be given to the White Dragon team and the forgery class, and they all become surprised and ask him if he is serious. He tells them that it should be managed by them, and Xiang becomes surprised and begins to wonder if he was ever nice to them, and the king then tells Martin that he would like to advise against something, and he immediately tells them that he would like to postpone the festival to summer, and he tells them that he wants to construct an arena in 10 days. Xiang immediately became surprised, as he was not certain that Olympics were a thing in that world. Sophus immediately begins to talk with the king's uncle, and he tells him that he serves the king, and he will serve the king with all he has. They deliberate on the issue for a while, and Sophus immediately asks him what he did to his father, and Xiang sees that they want to start fighting, and his teacher tells him to stay behind as he will get hurt if they start fighting. Suddenly the guards come in and inform them that Guro has successfully hanged himself in the library, and the king's uncle sees that Guro has really disappointed him. Later that night, Xiang becomes worried, and as he lays down on the floor, Isabella sits on the bed cleaning her sword, and she asks him what is wrong with him, and he tells her that she would not understand if he tells her. She immediately tells him that he should not misunderstand anything, as Renz is her classmate, and there is nothing more between them, but Xiang tells himself that she cares about his feelings, but she does not know that he is not bothered about Renz. Xiang then asks her if she has decided on the class she would represent for the event, and she tells him that she would be representing the swordsmanship class, but he asks her if Renz had asked her to go with him, and she immediately tells him that she wants to become his opponent, so that she would know how strong she has become. Xiang begins to tell her that Renz is a strong man, and she suddenly yells at him, and she threatens him that she would kill him. The following day, Sophus goes with some people to his father's grave, and as they stay there, Xiang tells him that he would help him to revenge his father's death, but Sophus tells him that Dita was not his real father, but the man who gave him a second chance to live. He tells him the story of how his whole family was killed when a group of bandits came to ruin their village and also stabbed him in the process. Sophus continues his story, and he tells them that when he woke up after being unconscious for a while, he finds out that his younger brother has been sold to the demon tribe as a slave, and since then, he began to train on how to be a good sword fighter, and in no time, he was able to join the army, and the day he met Dita, he did not know that he would eventually be his adopted father. He tells them that a colleague, whom he had knew for a while, went to a battle with him, and as a result of the battle, the boy got killed. He told Dita that he joined the army because he wants to look for his brother and have revenge on the people who had used his brother as a slave. Then he also tells Dita that he does not like to fight, as there are many young children in the army who has lost their families in one way or the other. Dita decided that he would adopt Sophus, and that marked the beginning of his journey with the imperial leader. Sophus tells them that he had to leave the front liners to join the White Dragon army after he moved in with Dita, and since then, he continued his mission of finding his younger brother. He also tells them that Dita had instilled some morals into him, and the morals are what he stands for. They all begin to discuss of a way forward, and when they ask Sophus what their plan is, and he tells them that they can only try their best. Meanwhile, a person who covers his whole body comes to tell Angus something, and the person suddenly disappears after another lady comes in, and she tells Angus that she has what he had sent her. Suddenly, she drops the bag with her, and when the bag hits the ground, a bunch of people's head rolls on the floor, and Angus tells the lady that he has arranged for her to become an insert student in the academy, and immediately he throws a picture at her that she should go to class and enroll there in order to represent the class for the competition. Angus also tells the lady that she should look for the person in the picture and find out what his motive is, and when the lady checks the picture, she sees Xiang's picture. Xiang tells his teacher that building an entire new arena should not be difficult since he has the Pale Moonstone. He then begins to wonder how he would get rid of the old arena. His teacher immediately tells him that it is the reason he brought the masters along, and Xiang immediately greets Master Yaso. Yaso tells him that he has heard a lot about his forgery skills from Eli, and they insist he begins with the old arena. The master begins to use his powers to destroy the old arena, and they all begin to look for cover from the ruins, so they will not get hurt. One of the masters then uses her powers to create a barrier that will shield them from the ruins of the old arena. Xiang becomes surprised and sees that they have to be the most effective demolition team in the world. Suddenly, he watches as the rubles are compressed together by the master. The masters finish up and tell the teacher that their back is sore, and they tell him to do his best, and they begin to leave. Xiang then asks Eli if he is not going to practice, since it is only 10 days to the competition, and Eli tells him that the teacher says that working with them counts as part of the training. He then asks him how broke he is and tells him that he heard that he has been moving materials for the forgery class since forever. His teacher immediately comes in and tells him that Eli is a good person and he has so many siblings at home, and he earns money while working and studying at the academy. Xiang immediately sees that he is also a good brother, and Eli tells him that he is the eldest. Eli sees that winning the tournament will improve the lifestyle of his siblings, and he sees that he must win the tournament so that he will be able to look out for his siblings. Xiang begins to wonder if the prize money is huge, and Moto tells him about the tournament prizes that will be won. Xiang sees that it will only be enough to buy just a few high-colored alloy coins. Xiang also sees that there would be a free opportunity to join the military, and he begins to wonder if they can leave and venture outwards. Moto tells him that he can leave, but it will be very risky, and he begins to think about it. The teacher continues to work on the arena, and Moto sees Hans and sees that they have come to help the teacher. They begin to confront Xiang about his abilities, and he tells them that it's not much, but he has a very big brain. Their master tells them that they have come to help them improve their forgery skills while he is away, and he tells them to enter special training within 10 days, and they become surprised. Xiang's teacher reminds him of what he once said about craftsmen fighting beside soldiers, and he tells Xiang that he has learned a valuable lesson, that a large amount of force can start battles, but they also equally end them at the same time. He then asks him if he understands what he is trying to convey, and Xiang tells his teacher that he understands. The teacher then calls his students around and plans to introduce them to their seniors, as they are his best students. He tells them that they will be taking over his classes within the next 10 days. The teacher tells them that every class will send out 5 students to compete within the tournament, and they will not be aiming for the cup, but they will have to have a good score. Eli also continues to train as he sees that he has to step up his game also for the tournament. At the Magic Glass training ground, Renis continues to train, and he uses his powers to take out the statues in the training ground. The girls see that he is very powerful, and she tells her student that he is not in the same league as her, but she has the cup in the bag. The student then plans on entering him solo into the tournament, but her teacher tells her that she doesn't want Dornan to take second place. As Isabella sits in the waterfall, Dorona waits for her, and she tells herself that Isabella is doing great, but she only needs her to push her boundary force. Meanwhile, as Isabella sits to meditate, she suddenly finds herself in a dark place, and when she stands to check, she sees the bodies of her late generals. Suddenly, she sees another version of Beer's self, who is the queen, and the queen tells her that she is the cause of the death of all her generals, as she has been too weasel and naive to fight for her people. She tells the queen that she only wanted her people to be safe, but the queen tells her that she had ruined the work of the Oz tribe, and she has forgotten who she really is. Some of the bodies begins to hold her leg as they call her, and she begins to get angry, and she suddenly yells at them that she has not forgotten who she is, which makes her emit a great energy from her body. Dorona begins to wait, and she sees a strange energy coming out from the rocks. She goes closer and sees that the lady has a very strong and powerful boundary force, and she quickly rushes to knock her out of it as she sees that her energy is strange, as she has seen an aura like that before, and it makes her blood go cold. Back at the refinery, Yalu calls one of his students and tells him that he has invented a new compound and he will be able to beat Ren's, but he has just one condition, and he will surely give it to him. Sophus and Xiang begin a conversation in the city, and the ladies begin to adore them, and they arrive at a dealer, and Sophus asks him what he is selling, and the man replies telling him that he is selling a fan, and it is very effective. If you made it this far, let's confuse the fake fans amongst us and comment Xiang sucks. Kindly subscribe and blow this video up with your likes. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.